It's Elvis time.
First of all, I plead innocent of all charges.
A little more conversation with TalkingElvis.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Talking Elvis, and I'm flying solo today. We've got something a bit special for you. It's a bit of a launch for you. We've got with us today in the studio an author who is going to be releasing a book in the not too distant future. And here he is, it's Vince Wright.
Hello, yes, I'm here with my other hat on today.
Yes, it's a very nice hat.
It's a very good hat. Yes. So the real Vince has another project to deal with.
Okay, tell us all about that. You seriously, you're writing a book?
Yeah, and you didn't think I could blooming write a limerick, did you? There was a young man from Ely. Now,
come on. So, serious head.
Serious head here.
You've got your author's hat on now. So come on.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Long before your Blu-rays, long before your VHS, long before your Betamax.
Oh, Betamax.
We used to have Elvis on 8mm film. And we've heard a lot of talk about this with all these live home movie DVD releases.
This is like the cine camera product that you used to get back in the 70s.
That's it.
Yeah.
So come 1965, they went from standard 8 to super 8, and you got a better home cinema. So I'm not talking today about I filmed Elvis live in concert. I'm talking about I want blue Hawaii to watch at home. So what can I do? I haven't got VHS. There's no such thing as video, but you could buy or rent 8mm film. The whole film, edited highlights, just the songs.
And was there like an 8mm sort of store you could go to, a bit like Blockbuster Video?
Yeah. And you would have, in all the film magazines, they would all have the adverts for films. Did you watch Endeavour recently, where there was one about gentlemen's films?
Yes. Yeah.
And they were all advertised in the back.
Yes.
So it was that world. So you might find a little bit of blue for the dads, right? But you'd also have, I want to rent this, and you'd go, let's rent Casablanca. Let's watch that.
Okay. Right.
So years and years ago, I got into this and I collected. Now, one of the biggest distributor in the world was Duran Film Services, and I used to work there. So I've got my Elvis hat and I've got my 8mm hat because I worked there. So I got the history of it, and I always loved collecting this stuff. And I got to the point where anything that came through the shop, I'd buy it. And when I left, I put an advert in Record Collector, and I bought collections. But I was a bit of an idiot because I never sold my vinyl on, but I sold my films, and I got rid of it. And I always missed it. Big mistake, should not have done it. But I always had the dream that every book and every catalogue that I had, the only thing you had about 8mm at the back was a list. Mm-hmm. You might have a couple of 3 pictures. Yeah. All the magazines have done articles about it, but it's just the same old pictures. And I started to research this back in the 90s. And, being bone idle, I just put it away. And
So 30 years later...
30 years later, I find the folder in my loft, and then I start saying... I talked to him, and I talked to him, and I talked to him, and I went, I love this again. Oh. And I found people with the good collections. So what we're aiming to do is this book is all about Elvis on 8mm. So we will have... Already we've got discussions with people who did the artwork, people who worked at the labs, people who striped the film. So the technical stuff, as well as guys who are going, I used to rent Blue Hawaii and show it at the Red Lion on a Thursday. So we've got that. We've got some great collectors who have got some lovely stories for us. But I keep going, well, I want to find out more. I want more and more and more.
So are you continuing your search and your research just purely with Elvis 8mm or in general?
Well, it's kind of a lot of crossover because you get a catalogue for, I want to find out, what would it be like? What were the songs from Harem Scarum that came out on 8mm, and I'd found it. And then I find a sales list that does it. But on the other side of the sales list, You've got all these films from the Stones. You've got Led Zeppelin live over here.
Wow, okay.
You've got a bit of Yoko Ono, but that's a shame. But but you find all these things, so there is a bit of crossover.
Yeah.
So in the pictures that I'm putting in, rather than just putting the little bit that says Elvis, rent Elvis Blue Hawaii, 3 shillings and sixpence. It is going to be the page.
So we're going to have some images in there as well. Yeah?
That's what I want. I want images and I want stories.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm the author or the collator or the curator of this. I don't know what you'd call me, because it's not just my stories, it's you. And that's why I wanted you to be here with my other hat on today.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody out there in listening land who's going, my dad's got a cupboard full of them. And there's the run of the mill stuff, but I love the original boxes. I want your sales receipt that says you bought it from Dixon's in Wood Green.
Do you have a projector of your own? So if somebody would send you an 8mm,
oh yeah,
you can play it and check out and
I could do that, but I'm happy, because people are going to be all around the world and COVID and whatnot. I've done one viewing sort of via Skype.
Right.
So I knew it. I know what Blue Hawaii is. I don't need to have it in front of me. But if I've got, you did a review of it for Film Review magazine in 1978, I want that one.
Yeah.
But I've also gone to the people today who have got it and gone, do you know, my copy's gone green, my copy's gone red. It doesn't print very well now. Mine's scratched a buggery.
Yeah.
When they made it, it was obviously pirated, and the trailer cuts off before the end. So I've got your interesting stories from people about it.
So you've got both originals and copies.
Yeah. So we've got.
So obviously with something like 8mm, I should imagine that the quality after each copy degrades a bit like the old VHS.
Yeah, because what people were doing is you've got your 35mm at the cinema.
Yeah.
Somebody sneaks it out the back door, makes a 16mm print, and then somebody sneaks that one out the back door and makes an 8mm print. Yeah. And you'll see here. I remember at Duran we had a Viacom release, came in Spanish, so they wanted to dub it, but they had the British release one, but it wouldn't sync, and they had to take the VHS off a Viacom video to resync, because it was the right edit.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that. It's just fascinating me, the stories of people who edited it, who decided it, and because it was at the right time when Elvis died. What happened? August '77, when people went cha-ching.
All of a sudden, the market
developed.
Yeah.
So what can we do here? Well, let's make a 200-footer of couple of songs from Blue Hawaii.
Explain what a 200-footer is in 8mm terms.
So the size, the actually in footage.
Oh, okay. The actual
of a
the
reel
actual tape.
In that way, and that's another thing I've got for the start of the book. I've got a full from not having a clue what film is to knowing about the sprockets, knowing what the different gauges were, because you had to know it. But I'm specifically dealing with 8. Not 16. I could do this on 16. I could do it on everything, but it is this home. Well, I've called this 8mm Elvis, the home cinema years. Is what is like the working title. So that's what we're looking at. It's that stuff. It's specifically 8mm. So there's the legal stuff, which is great. It's all been licensed and everything's rosy. And then as with Elvis, with everything, there's a little bit of a out the back door market as well.
Right. So. In your research, are you going to companies or is it individual collectors?
Oh, I've gone everywhere. So the trouble is, most of them have fell off the end.
Yeah.
The ones who were involved in it. I'm talking to old directors of they used to produce some. They used to have a mail order company. They used to distribute for somebody else. So then and get the story. So some of it's second generation story. But it's still fascinating. It's how did Duran get to decide to issue Elvis the movie, and how they did the deal's a really funny story, and that'll be in there. But then there's other stories where deals were nearly done and then they weren't. Then there's the companies that really didn't care, and you'd look and go, Paradise of the Wild Star's got a lovely cover. Beautiful picture, from Funny in Acapulco, but it's a lovely picture on the front, and you're going, now think about it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always done with love. It was done with cha-ching again, wasn't it?
Mind, yeah. And how wide has the net been cast? Are you talking to people specifically in the UK?
Oh no, I've managed to sort of talk to a bloke who knew a bloke who met a bloke.
Because obviously people with footage of live Elvis concerts, for example, would only be in America, surely.
Yeah. Well, but then you've got this whole business of Rex Martin. Couldn't think of his name then. Rex Martin. So there's Rex Martin in Blackpool. He used to go over film stuff, thank you, and he must have known a bloke in the lab and went knock off a few hundred of these, and a lot of this would be white box specials, a bit like the nudge nudge wink wink brigade. They would just be, this is this is TE 1073J, and that's it on the side, and you go, oh, but that's 2 songs from Maloa, and that's Charlotte 74, and that's whatever. So they're a bit rubbish to look at, but when you look at the film and you look at the leader tape, you either love it or you hate it. If it's in your blood, you love it.
And of course with 8mm, I suppose, no matter where you got it from originally, whether you're on this on this side of the Atlantic or the other side of the Atlantic, there's no difference like there is with we've got regions for DVDs, for example. So it's universal, I guess.
It's a light and a bit of thing going through. It's the magic lantern, isn't it? It's great, and the story of it that runs through this is quite sad in that you see these companies folded, but this company bought the eggs. And then you'll get that this was released in this lovely box in 77, but it was in a white rubbishy box in 85 because the churn them out, pile them high, sell them cheap. There's not much out there that I don't think people are going to come up with amazing things and say.
So we're not going to see something that's not been seen yet.
Yeah, but what I have got is things like I've seen things advertised and I've read reviews of them, but I haven't found it yet, and I haven't found anybody with one. So when somebody says they've got a copy of this, then I'll be in with the camera and I want to see it and want to make it happen. But I mean, it would be lovely if people come up with a real gem, but not just because you went on holiday in 73 and you filmed it and you haven't shared it with the world and you got it. I'll have that. Thank you very much, cha-ching. But I'm not looking at that bit for this. It's stuff that was mass produced. Yeah. So it was duplicated to sell. So
it should be in decent quality. Some of it.
Most of it should be, depending on what the negative was like. All these different trailers are there.
If it was official releases, it should be.
The official releases are amazing. I mean, like a Universal 8's version of Change of Habit. It's 20 minutes long, and actually it works really well because it's chopped down and it's just a quick bish bash bosh, rather than, I do like the story normally, but it does take a bit out of it. But then you've got other, the trouble with some of the 8mm is they bunged a narrator in because the edit was a bit iffy. Yeah. So you suddenly, it's not Elvis, but I always think of the Wild One, the Wild One film, Marlon Brando, and I had that. And they cut out a whole big chunk, and then it goes, Johnny now buys a motorcycle. And you've got this. So, but it's of its time again, isn't it? Yeah. And those are the bits that I love when they've got this cheesiness to it. So I think for who would want this book, there'll be like the diehards like me who wanted it, and we've always wanted it. But I think, if you like a nice book of Elvis labels and you like to see 73 different covers of Madison Square Garden, then this is interesting. And at the moment, it's grown and grown. It was going to be like a magazine throwaway thing, but I seem to be getting more stories and more pictures. And you go, I think we can go glossier on this. I think we can go a bit bigger on that. Okay. And I don't want to commit to a date and have somebody come out with something 10 minutes later. So it's all sort of kind of bubbling under. But what I want is it out there in podcast land. I want to get a bit of a talk about it. And the non-collectors or the new guys who have got Grandad had it in the loft. Yeah. Grandad's kept it, but we can't show it, so it's rubbish. But really what I want is people who are in the business, people who worked at the different distributors, particularly in America, because I've spoke to a lot of the British ones, but I can't find a lot of living people who were with it.
Are there still distribution companies that still operate showing off 8mm? Or any of the
well,
other
you've got mostly it's a second-hand market of eBay land.
So we're not talking brand new here.
There is still possible in certain ways, but stupid money. Yeah. But when Duran went, that was the death of it really. Right, when they went in. I mean that was after my days, but that was sad. And you looked at they junked all the negatives.
Oh right.
So it wasn't like they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere else and somebody else is going to go tell you what. But you watch on your 60, 70 inch telly, you're watching your HD super whatever it is now. That's lovely. You're not getting that quality on this, but you have to put it into its time. It's 1980, or 1979. You haven't got VHS all running. You haven't got not everybody's got everything, and you go, but I want it. And all you get is the trailer. I started out, I had the GI Blues trailer, and all I watched was It's a Rousing, Rollicking, over and over again, because that's all I could afford at the start.
I mean, to be fair, I myself have been to cinematic showings of films like Laurel and Hardy and Harold Lloyd and the Keystone Cops and this type of thing. And it's actually quite exciting, isn't it? So it's got a different feel all of its own, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's very good, isn't it? Because Laurel and Hardy is one of those. To have a room full of drunk people laughing,
it's tremendous.
Is an amazing thing. Yeah. The Elvis one, I did it with Neil. Yeah. We went round and showed it at all our discos before we had the video option, and we would, we're showing 20 minutes of Tickle Me, and people would be sitting on the floor in that pub like, amazing.
I think the first time I saw footage of, say, the Burbank sessions or something like that was with Ian Bailey. Over in Leicester, and that was on printed film as well. That's my first experience of it. So.
He's your main man on 16mm. He is that, but he's got some interesting stories I've talked to him about as well for this. So
you're talking to lots of people. You have been talking to lots of people, and you want to continue to find more people. How can people get in touch with you to progress this little project?
Well, what I've done. Is we've got Talking Elvis. This is nothing to do with Talking Elvis, the podcast. This is just a separate little baby. So, www.8mm, that's 8mm Elvis.com.
Not word 8, it's the figure 8.
No, figure 8, 8mm.com. Okay. Yeah. So, 8mm Elvis. So, it looks like it says Melvis in the middle.
Fantastic. So it's a bit like Elvin Schmelvin, isn't it?
And there's obviously the email of that as well. So there's info@8mm-elvis.com. Okay, you write to us here if you're on the podcasty thing, and Facebook. There is 8mm Elvis as well. Okay. So that's all going. It's all going live now. This is like the big. I've tried to do everything underground and talk to people, and now I'm going. Hang on, I want to find somebody else, because someone's got a belter of a story out there.
So what have you got, folks? Tell us.
What have you got? When you come out and you go, oh, I remember watching this on a wardrobe door when I was 7. Those are the great stories, aren't they? Because that's all you could do. The catalogues that I found, it's really funny, because American and British, to see the price, it is just. Where would somebody...
they go for lots of money, those things back in the day? Or they're the same price as the VHS?
No, I mean, VHS was a godsend. I've also got in there all things like the old Grattan's catalogue, where you could have 38 weeks at £1.10. And you'd get a 20-minute cut down of Blue Hawaii for that. So, and you're only getting 20 minutes of that for 40, 50 quid. You're buying it, but you might join a rental library. So they'd have this, they'd send you the films, like you say, blockbusters, because you're going, I can't afford 300 quid for a film. But those that did were showing them up the Red Lion, and thank you very much. I've got my money back.
Sounds fascinating. It's not something that I've looked into at all.
No.
And cause in the Elvis world, you think, well, what else is there that's not really out there? What else is new that is going to interest me and make me buy a book?
Yeah.
This certainly makes me feel like, hang on a minute, there's something different out there.
It's a moment in time again. It is this other thing that we just take it for granted. I've collected all sorts of stuff. It's sad that I know that I've had on tour on DVD, Betamax, VHS, a knockoff copy off the telly, umpteen various versions of other pirated things, Laserdisc, the VCD, 8mm trailer, and I did have a 16mm print of it, went through my hands for a week or two because I sold it on to get something else. But you just go, but that's what we do, don't we? That's what we do with Elvis.
We do, and there was obviously a lot of that going on, especially post 1977.
Yeah.
You know, it's sounds a fascinating thing. So give us that website once again. Where can we get in touch with you?
So
if you've got any 8mm movies, specifically with Elvis, would be good. But if anything, any stories or whatever, how do we get in touch?
Brilliant. So try us at info at. I nearly gave me work one then. Right, let's try that again. So you get us at info at 8mmElvis.com. That is the website, www.8mmElvis.com. It's Elvis, the home cinema years. I'm specifically looking for that stuff. But if you want to send me rare home footage that nobody else has seen, I won't turn you down.
So that's Vince Wright with his author's hat on.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's a wonderful show. I always listen to it.
You always listen, do you?
Yeah.
It's great. Some shows are better than others. I'm sure this will be right up there.
I think it's the better quality guest this week, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. So no expense spared here, was there, to get you into
the
studio? So that's
thank you very
good,
much. Check, please.
Vince Wright, thank you very much.
Bye now.
Find us at www.talkingelvis.co.uk or Facebook or YouTube or Spotify. In fact, any place you get your podcasts.